Corey Seager, because I see that as the main topic of discussion with Dodger fans right now. And Dodgers fans, in hindsight, thinking that this franchise should have done more to try to retain Corey Seager, a player that they drafted, a player that won Rookie of the Year, became a multi-time All-Star, won the World Series MVP. Should the Dodgers have kept Corey Seager? Well, it's interesting because they did try to keep him. They were at the table. They didn't have a seat at the table. Only issue is the Texas Rangers, they wanted him really bad. The Dodgers wanted him bad. Rangers wanted him really bad. The Rangers made him a Godfather offer. I'm going to make him an offer you can't refuse, right? They did that. They made him a Godfather offer. And just kind of rewinding here in Corey Seager and his history with the Dodgers in that pursuit, in the spring of 2021, it was reported that Seager turned down an 8-year, $250 million extension to stay in Los Angeles. So what's the point of even attempting that is my question. He's represented by Scott Boras. He had come off a World Series MVP. He was still in the prime of his career. And you think for a second he's going to consider signing an 8-year, $250 million contract? In what universe was that going to be the case? That was a low ball offer. And that's something that I want to see changed within this organization because it feels like a gigantic waste of time. And you look at the offer they made for Bryce Harper, 4 years, $180 million. That was never going to be signed, especially when you consider they're represented by Scott Boras. So 2021, that $250 million extension, that wasn't going to cut it. And then you look past that, well, what was the offer after the 2021 season? How high did the Dodgers go? Well, I went back and I found this tweet from John Heyman, who tweeted out, Dodgers made solid effort to keep Corey Seager, but his $325 million Rangers deal has no deferrals and is front-loaded about $140 million in first 4 years. And with no state taxes, the real money gap likely wasn't small. Seager, who will play shortstop with Simeon at second, also took note of Texas in their recent signing. So, one, the word I'm looking at there is solid effort. Solid effort is not going to get it done for elite free agents. That's not going to cut it. If you want the best, you have to pay up. You can't come with these offers that aren't matching other teams, right? And I think it's interesting because you look at what a lot of fans said after he did sign with the Texas Rangers. What they say? They said, Corey Seager, he's signing with the bottom feeder Texas Rangers instead of the Los Angeles Dodgers. Well, now Corey Seager is back in the World Series without the Dodgers, before the Dodgers. And yes, like I told you, it's like the Wolverine meme. I'm looking at my Wolverine, the picture frame meme, just missing my Corey Seager back. And yes, do I feel like a jealous ex-girlfriend? I do, and I am. But the reality is that the Dodgers, they could have kept Corey Seager. They could have kept Corey Seager and signed a Mookie Betts. Even if he wasn't going to play shortstop for the entirety of the contract, you could have moved him to third base, and he still could have been productive. Now, the real reason, though, and look, I'm not an accountant, right? I'm not political, right? But the main reason why Corey Seager, in my opinion, is not on the Los Angeles Dodgers and is currently on the Texas Rangers is that California state tax. Because the California state income tax is 13.3%. That's the highest in the country. So when you look at Seager's payday that he got with the Texas Rangers, $325 million, they have 0% income tax. So for the Dodgers to be able to match the Texas Rangers 10-year, $325 million offer, you'd have to spend close to $400 million. $400 million for 10 years of Corey Seager. And with his injury history, the fact that he didn't love his defense, maybe that's why you didn't make that Godfather offer. But the reality is, I see a lot of people out there saying, oh, it's Corey Seager's decision, right? He was drafted by the Dodgers. He didn't decide to play in LA, right? He didn't decide to join this organization. He was drafted by them. So there's no telling if Seager wanted to be a Dodger forever, right? There's no telling if he liked it in LA. Maybe he doesn't like LA traffic. Maybe he doesn't like the beach here in LA, right? Maybe he wanted to play for a different franchise. But the reality is the Dodgers didn't go above and beyond to retain Corey Seager. They didn't give him a Godfather offer. They didn't go all out. The Rangers went all out. They made him an offer he couldn't refuse. They paid him $325 million over 10 years. And now they're going to the World Series. And now you combine the aggressive mindset in the pursuit of free agents and key players at the trade deadline. The Texas Rangers are on their way to possibly be going from a 100 loss team a few years ago. They lost 100 games a few years ago, and now they're on the cusp of possibly winning a World Series title. So you got to give them a lot of credit. So it's interesting. I don't think that the Dodgers did enough to retain Corey Seager. I personally don't believe they did. And this is from Jorge Castillo of the LA Times, and he had some really good intel about the Corey Seager contract situation. He wrote, offensively, the Dodgers wanted Seager to stay long before he hit free agency. They offered him an 8-year, $250 million contract during spring training this year. They were among the teams vying for his services as a free agent once the season ended. Ultimately, they weren't close to meeting the Rangers' extravagant offer of $325 million over 10 years, according to people with knowledge of the situation. So there, the operative words are, they weren't even close. So the Dodgers were never close. They did not make an aggressive offer for Corey Seager, and he has been a fantastic player for the Texas Rangers, and he's someone that's had a lot of success already. And I also see people out there saying Corey Seager's had 2 good postseason runs in 8 years. 2 good postseason runs in 8 years. Okay, that's fine. I'll give you that. If you look at his postseason history, he was the guy that couldn't come through. He was the guy that was ice cold when it mattered most, and he couldn't swing the bat, right? If you look at 2015 in the DS, had the home runs, or in 2016, had the 2 home runs, hit 130. You look at the World Series, had the go-ahead home run there in Game 2. They lose that series. He hit 273. He end up hitting in that World Series. He ended up 661 OPS. So look, yes, he's only had 2 elite postseasons, but if you can tell me that 2 of those elite postseasons will lead to pieces of metal, I'll sign up for that every single day. This is a World Series. This is a franchise that hasn't won a full season World Series since 1988, right? So if you can guarantee me 2 World Series titles out of that, I'll gladly take 2 elite postseasons out of 8. Because look, what this tells you is that guess what? Great players are going to struggle. Great players are going to have down series. Look at last night. What do we see? Another team that failed to repeat in the Houston Astros. It is impossible to win back-to-back World Series titles. Winning a championship in baseball is harder than winning a Super Bowl in the NFL. It's harder than winning a Larry O'Brien trophy in the NBA. It is a very difficult thing to do, to win a World Series trophy, because every year is so different. The volatility of hitters, players having good years, players having bad years, up years, down years, injuries. Who do you hit on as far as the farm system, guys coming up in your system? So there's a lot of moving parts in baseball, and that's why it's very difficult. But yeah, I want to get your takes down below on Corey Seager. Should the Dodgers have done more to keep Corey Seager? That is the big question at the moment, because there's a lot of Dodgers fans that, yeah, we're happy for Seags. He's in the World Series, but Corey Seager is in the World Series and playing in the Fall Classic before the Dodgers. With that Texas Rangers team, it looks like that him and Garcia and the rest of that squad is on their way to possibly winning a title. So let's go down below in the comment section. Give me your thoughts on Corey Seager. Like I said, sorry about the technical difficulties, and Jerry Harrison, we're going to try to get him back later on in the week, but appreciate Jerry Harrison for joining us for a question there. That was awesome. IB Strokin says, what up, Dodgers fan? What's the word, Bird? What up, IB Strokin? Christian Paul, you can apply that same logic to Mookie. Yeah, absolutely you can. And look, there's a lot of domino effects out there. I had one of my friends call me, and he wanted to talk about Corey Seager yesterday. I had a friend who texted me the longest text message, man. This thing was 3 paragraphs. It was like his senior thesis. And his theory is that the domino effect of Trevor Bauer and Trevor Bauer getting suspended. And if Bauer doesn't get suspended, then do the Dodgers push for Max Scherzer? If you don't get Max Scherzer, you don't get Trey Turner. And then does that change your pursuit of Corey Seager, because are you going to be that aggressive with Corey Seager? No, you have Trey Turner for one more year. It's an interesting theory, but I can tell you that the Dodgers didn't go after Max Scherzer because of what happened with Trevor Bauer. They went after Max Scherzer because of what happened with Dustin May. Dustin May suffered a season-ending injury. He had Tommy John surgery. That's why they were trying to bolster that pitching. Also, this is pre-expanded postseason when you could get more value at the deadline. You didn't have 12 teams. You had 10 teams. So that's when Andrew Friedman was more aggressive. But it's an interesting theory. I, too, own a tinfoil hat. I totally get that. But I don't think that is really what happened. I don't think that's the crux of it. But down below, Rangers choking the World Series like in 2011. That's from Showtime fans. BC, finally we get a stress-free World Series without the Trastros. That's from BC. Look, I did pick the Trastros to make it to the World Series, and I had them facing the Dodgers. And look, that's an Astros team who, say what you want, they're in the conversation for the model franchise of Major League Baseball. But as good as the Astros have been for the last 7 seasons, multiple World Series titles, they won a World Series. They have one legitimate World Series in this run of 7 years. That tells you, that exemplifies and illustrates how hard it is to win in Major League Baseball. I see people out there thinking you can roll out of bed and build a World Series team. Oh, the Phillies have the formula. The Braves have the formula. The Astros have the formula. If it was so easy, trust me, these guys would do it. If it was so easy, and Andrew Friedman knows, okay, sign 2 starters, sign a couple relievers, sign some impact packs, it would happen. But what you can't quantify for, and the variable that's tough to assess, is, like I said, players having up years, players having down years, injuries, who's available at the trade deadline, right? So there's a lot to it. But let's go down below the comment section. I want your thoughts on Corey Seager. Tony Yanez, Seager is gone, move on. So I see people out there, that's the parroted take that I've seen for Sony. Seager's gone, move on. Yeah, I get it. Sure, that's fine. I'm okay with that. But it's what can we learn? I'm not a big blame game guy. I'm not the blame game guy. Trust me, I'm not the blame game guy. I'm a problem solver. What can the Corey Seager situation teach us about the future? What can the Corey Seager situation do to help us avoid seeing Seager help another team win a World Series title? Okay, what is that like? And I look at Will Smith. Got to try to retain Will Smith. Walker Buehler, if he has a good year next year, got to keep Walker Buehler. At some point, you want to try to retain your homegrown talent, because otherwise, everyone else is benefiting from it, right? Everyone else is benefiting from it, right? It's like you raise the kid and he has success, and then he goes on and he has success with another family, right? I mean, you can't keep doing that. If you're going to continue to produce in your farm system and have that sustained success, you want to be able to have these guys in your own organization having success with your team, because you're the team, you're the guys who put in all the work, right? You helped him get to where he's at. So look, I think you also have to factor in that if you do bring back Corey Seager, you probably don't have Freddie Freeman, right? And I think only time will tell. Corey Seager, if he gives them a World Series, if Corey Seager wins the World Series MVP and he goes into God mode again, it's worth every single penny of the 10 years and $325 million, right? If he doesn't, even so, he was really one of the biggest pieces as far as that organization's roster build, because you went out there and you spent big money. You got Marcus Semien, right? Even you went, you signed Jacob deGrom, you traded for Max Scherzer, right? But still, Adolis Garcia is the one that's going crazy. He's the one that really is carrying this team. So you can't do it all by big money free agents, but the Texas Rangers are proving that if you are aggressive, not just in the offseason, but during the season, signing players and trading for players.